Today we are going to talk about robotics and society, the impact that we get from robots, or what the robot impact in the society. So, what is a robot? When we talk about robot, what is a robot? And whenever you hear the word robot, what image always comes to your mind? One, robots are not just humanoid figures from movies that we always see in the Hollywood movies. A robot is any programmable machine designed to perform tasks automatically or semi-autonomously. So what they are trying to say here is that robot is a programmable machine that follows algorithm to perform a specific task according to the program that you've instruct the machine to do. It's not as we can see that the point two says that robots are not just a human figure from movies. So we have different robots, how they look and the structure and those kind of things. So the point four says robots exist in factories, hospitals, homes, and exploration missions. So robots exist in the factories. When you go to the factories, you will see robots doing packaging, and some also doing cleanup, and so others are doing some stuff. That is robot doing those kind of things. And then the last point is understanding robots is essential because this technological well robots are increasingly taking everything in the future and our daily lives. So robots are essential as far as human being or technology is concerned in this era. So the three core components of every robot is one, the mechanical structure, two, the sensor, three, control system. So these are the three main components that make the robot to function, or that sum up to make the robot a robot. As you can see on the image above, that you can see sensors, you can see the mechanical structure, how they structure the robot, and then the system control, those kind of things. So they are sum up, made up the machine to work as a robot. So the first one says the physical body of or frame that provides shapes and enable movement. So we can see the structure, the body of the robot that provide the shape of the machine. So you can see how the machine is shaped up. That is the mechanical structure that they've designed for that specific robot. And then we have sensors. So the sensors are devices that collect information from environment like camera, pressure, and sensors, and temperature sensors. So the sensors, they collect information from the environment. Like there is the sensor that will detect that here is a ground, here is a wall, here is those kind of things. It is the sensors work that will do that. That will collect information and then instruct the robot. And then we have the system control. The system control is a program processor that interprets sensors data. When the sensor sends information and give the machine the information, it's now left the system control to act according to what the sensor have instructed. If the sensor says here jump, and then the control system will receive that information and instruct the mechanical structure to jump over that thing. So that is the system or the control system, and interpret data and direct the machine parts to perform actions. So every robot you encounter contains three essential elements working together. That is the mechanical structure, the sensors, and then the control system. So without these three things, it will make the robot impossible to move. And then we have key principles of robot design. First, we have the automation, the precision, the efficiency, programmability, and the last one, the adaptability. So the automation robot perform repetitive or alright, as I was saying, guys. So the automation is like a default that they've programmed on the robot to act whenever it meets a specific or to perform a specific task whenever it meets that thing. So that is the automation without humans instructing it or without instructing it as the inventor. And then we have the precision. So robot execute tasks with consistency, accuracy, often surpasses human capability. So the robot is faster than the human being whenever it is executing a task. So that is why many industries they prefer robot than human beings because it is faster, it doesn't get tired, it works with speed and that kind of accuracy that you've programmed it. As far as you've programmed to perform that specific task, it works with accuracy. So that simply implies that robot perform accuracy or faster than the human capacity. And then we have the third point, that is efficiency. Robot work continuously without fatigue, increasing productivity. That is more or what I've explained under point two. That is, they work without getting tired. So, and then they increase productivity. Imagine, say, if you have a production and then you instruct a robot to work time is what the human being worked in a day. That simply means that your productivity will go high, making you to take the robot or you choose the robot over the human capability. And then we have the programmability. Robot can be programmed for different tasks, providing the flexibility. So you can program a robot to perform different tasks as per the instruction. Like one robot can perform so many tasks. For example, a robot in the factory packaging at the same time doing mobbing. That is what you've programmed the robot to perform. So, and that is different tasks put together. And that robot at the same time can work in the farm. So, uh, working in the production or the factory and then also working in the farm, the same packaging, different tasks if given the robot to work. So that is the programmability of the robot. And then we have the last one, adaptability. So advanced robot use sensors to adjust action based on the environmental feedback. So it will adjust to the environment that they find themselves, and then the sensors will get that information as we explained last, that the sensors gather information and then give that information for the machine, and then the system control will do the work. And so in advanced robot use sensors to adjust action based on environmental feedback. That is why in the advanced countries we have robots that are policing on the street. So the how the sensors will do the work. They will sense that and realize that this person has performed this action, and now send that data to the system control for the system control to now put a work on it by arresting the person or reporting the person to the police station. So that is how the robot can be adjusted at any environment that they find themselves in, as far as will not harm them. And then we have robots in action, real world examples that we are going to illustrate. And then you can see on the picture that we have a robot that is performing a specific task that has been given to it to do. So we pick the industrial welding robot. That is where the robot help in welding, when especially when you go to the automobile where they are doing cars or where they are manufacturing cars. You see. So as I was saying, so in the industrial welding robot demonstrate automation and precision by performing thousands of identical ones in the manufacturing plant. So it works according to what it has been instructed to weld according to thousands of work what humans cannot do in a day. A robot can work more than 10 times, or let me say 5 times. When so the second point is this. And then when you go to the hospital, that is the surgical robot demonstrate precision and adaptability by allowing surgeons to perform a delicate procedure with enhanced accuracy. So in the hospitals, we have robot performing surgery that the doctors themselves find themselves difficult performing that surgery. So robots are programmed to demonstrate the same thing without missing or without making mistake for that operation or that surgery. And then by allowing surgeons to perform delicate, underline those words, procedure with enhanced accuracy, and then accuracy also underline that word. So that is the do it without mission or without diverting to the what it has been instructed. And then each example shows how multiple principles work together to solve a real problem in that surgical or in that industrial place. So turn to a partner and discuss. I hope we are discussing. Yes. So, what other tasks do you think robots could perform using these principles that I've just discussed? Maybe looking at your surrounding or your place wherever you find yourself, just look and then imagine what a robot can do to help humans activity or enhance human activity as per what I've just explained now. So you realize that robot perform can help the human to do a lot of things in our environment or society. So you can just imagine in the future without robots, or in the future how robots are going to take the industry and wherever we find ourselves. And then we have the manufacturing and industrial benefits and challenges. So robots in automotive assembly increase production speed and consistency while reducing workers in injury from repetitive tasks. So I'm trying to illustrate is that robot in automating assembly increase product speed, yes, and consistency while reducing worker injury. So if the robots are doing the work, I mean humans are not going to be part of those things, maybe to get himself or herself injured or get exhausted or that kind of stuff. So robots are taking the that is the main looking at robot what they can perform. They are going to reduce the risk of workers injuring themselves. Others will say I'm tired. So and then one thing is that positive impact is very high in the industry because higher quality product, safer working condition, increased productivity. I like those 3 points. What I've just mentioned now: higher quality product, safer work condition, increased productivity. So you realize that when you program the machine to do the same thing repeatedly, it is going to follow that procedure. I'm not talking of human being. When you work and you become tired, you see that accuracy that you've started, it will go down, and then you are likely not to perform that quality product that you want to do. And then safer working conditions. So the working condition will be safer for workers around those places. And then productivity, as we all know, that productivity will increase and it will go high. So and then challenges. Factory workers face job displacement. So when you realize that robots do times what the humans are doing, I mean you prefer robots than humans in the industry. So and So as I was saying, so the challenges factories workers face job displacement and need retraining for new jobs. So it will be a challenging for the industry and whatever workers find themselves doing or whatever human beings are found themselves doing in the working place or wherever they find themselves. And then the last point is sector shows how robotics create both opportunities and disruption in the society. So, as we all know that in every everything that we do, you have the benefit or we have the advantage and disadvantages. So, the as we all know that as far as this robot is concerned, we have the benefit and then the disadvantage too in the society. So, and then when you go to health and medicine, precision meat access. So, surgical robot enable minimally, minimally invention. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce the word very well. Invasive procedures with greater precision, improving patient outcome and recovery time. So the robot is consistent to do what they have programmed to do, and then making work to improve in the hospitals and make recovery time very faster. And then positive impact, better surgical result patient trauma and enhance doctor capabilities. So that is in the health care side that we are talking about. And then we have challenges, high cost limit access for many patients, specialized training required for medical professionals when um, those things are begin to happen in the hospital. We have access for many patients for within some specific time you can access many patients, and then train required for medical profession. So when that begin to happen, medical requirement begin to grow high in the sector. And then we have healthcare robot raises impact in and questions about equity and who benefit from advanced technology. So when those begin to arise, you see many questions that is popping up, and we have and then who benefit from that those advanced robot that we are talking about. And then we have service robot and ethical questions that always pops up. We have service robot assisting elderly individual, as we can see in the image above. You see the old man and the robot chatting, and then he's laughing. So daily tasks and improve companionship in homes and healthcare. So these are human beings who supposed to do that. You see the robot are taking that kind of job to do, and it is very wonderful. And we have the positive impact on those sides. So support for aging population, increase independence, reduce caregiver burden. Yes, so that's what I said. This one, caregiver, is supposed to be human that are taking that kind of job, but you can see that the robot are doing wonderful on that. So, and then we have always challenges, and then we have ethical concern about human connection, privacy issue, questions about emotions care, and then we have robot. One thing of robot is that they don't know, or they don't have emotion. As human beings supposed to add maybe afra those kind of things, the robot doesn't know that kind of things. And then we have the last point, these robots highlight the human side of technology, what we value in relationships. And then we have exploration robot protecting human life. So you can see our very wonderful robot in the sea performing wonders. So robot explore dangerous locations like deep ocean, space, and disaster zones, protecting human life. So there are some robots that are being placed there to prevent human, giving human signals or information from disasters in the sea, as we can see on the image. And then positive impact of this one is that scientific discovery rescue operation. So when that one happens, we have a scientific discovery, and we any place we always have the challenges, as I said. substantial development costs, limit public understanding, questions about resource allocation. So these robots demonstrate how energy expands human capabilities in extreme situations, and then reflecting on robotics in the society. So as you've seen from the previous till now, or from what the beginning till now, and then you can see some reflections on robot in the society, whether it is putting impact in the society or it is bringing some kind of bad defect in the society. So one thing is that what common themes emerge across different robot applications you studied today? That's what just reflection that we've just discussed. And then third is how do the benefits and challenges every dependent on the context and industry. So per what we've discussed, how can you answer this question? And then the third question is who bears responsibility for addressing the challenges robotics present to workers and communities? And then take 5 minutes to discuss these questions with your group, or prepare to share one key insight that you've learned from this robot. So yeah, challenges, evolution, and then robotics. Robotics. I'm just bringing you a recap of what we've just said. Robotics is defined by specific principles component that make it valuable across many sectors. And however, integrating robotics into society requires a careful consideration of ethical, economic, and social implications. So before you bring a robot in the society, you have to consider some key things: the impact of that robot, what it will cost, and then the economic, whether you can maintain that robot, and then implications, what it may bring to the society or the industry. So considering those things before you bring a robot in the industry or whatever you find it for yourself, or whatever, whenever you want robot assistance. And then choose one robot application discussed today and evaluate whether its benefits to society over it is challenging. And then the last point is support your position with specific reasoning and how it is demonstrated and affect real people. So I think this is our end of our lesson for today. Thank you, and I see you another time. Bye.